Now, I've talked about it a little bit in the past when I did my Pokemon Liquid Crystal video, but I absolutely love Pokemon Rom hacks. I used to love to play them a lot growing up, but the ones I grew up with weren't very good. And this one was probably one of the better ones that I grew up with, Pokemon Rijon Adventures. I think it was all done with in 2009. I believe it's not, well, it wasn't totally finished because there was a plan to add in the Johto region to it, but you have an entirely new region in this game, and this was honestly one of the better hacks back in the before 2010 or early 2010s, when a lot of the ROM hacks were kind of just starting. Because then following this, I mean, you had some pretty good ones like Light Platinum was really, really good. I enjoyed Snakewood. That one was just kind of funny with zombie apocalypse basically meets Pokemon. You have a whole bunch of zombie Pokemon that you end up battling and zombie trainers. And that one was just a really, really funny ROM hack. But honestly, this one, Pokemon Rijon Adventures, I played years ago, like probably 10 years ago, if not more. For sure more, I think it would be. Because, yeah, I probably would have played it around 2010. Early 2010s anyways, was when I was playing a lot of Pokemon ROM hacks, and I really, really enjoyed it. I remember it being significantly better than Pokemon Quartz, and I did enjoy it also better than Pokemon Ruby Destiny. The Ruby Destiny games weren't bad by any means, but for whatever reason, I just didn't really enjoy them all that much. So yeah, this one was one of my favorites growing up, I remember. And then Quartz was just awful, to be honest. The Fakemon in that game were terrible. They were such bad sprites. They had the same stats as their real Pokemon counterparts, and you could tell which Pokemon they were basically just by listening to the cry whenever you threw it out in battle, or whenever you ended up running into it in the wild. Then you could just listen and you could hear which Pokemon it was. Not to mention they didn't change up any of the stats of any of the Fakemon, so they were exactly the same as their real Pokemon counterparts. So that game, not so good. But Pokemon Rijon Adventures is the one I recently beat, so it was interesting to say the least. Is it as good as I remember? No. To be quite frank, it was not as good as I remember. I remember enjoying it a lot more growing up. Now, maybe it was because there was only a handful of Pokemon ROM hacks. I also played Chaos Black too. That was an old one. But that one was also with Fakemon, and they were okay. They were better than Quartz for sure. But that game just didn't really have whole lot that changed from Fire Red, because it was just a Fire Red ROM hack that basically was, other than the Fakemon, the exact same as Pokemon Fire Red from my memory. But in Rijon Adventures, you get a brand new region called Rijon, which is to the right side or the east side of Johto, instead of Kanto being on the west side of Johto, so that was kind of cool. The map was definitely not finished, because when you end up reaching Johto later into the game, you end up being able to visit Goldenrod City, and when you go to fly, then you're basically just on one of the Sevi Islands is what the map looks like. So that was obviously what they used for the location of Johto. But it's still, honestly, the new region was really cool. The only, I guess, issue I had playing this game now is the fact that the Rijon region was extremely confusing. Now, what I mean by that is you start in Seashore Town, and then you basically have to do a pile of backtracking, I guess. The way the region's kind of laid out was a little bit interesting. It was a little bit different. I found myself playing through it this time. I mean, it's been so long, it felt like I was playing through it blind, so I was kind of lost trying to figure out where I needed to go. Not to mention also the level jumps. The level jumps were absolutely insane, which I have some footage to show just how ridiculous the level jumps were later in this video. But speaking of the confusing map, I didn't know which gym was supposed to come first. So there's one part in the game where you end up passing the grass type gym. Well, I went in there and tried to take on the grass type gym leader, and they were level 40 when all my team was level 27, 28. So it was major under leveled. And then I found out that there was another gym that was a much lower level gym on the town next to the town where this grass type gym was just outside of. So there's things like that where there's not really any streamlined, I guess easily streamlined progression. It's all kind of jagged, and I didn't really know where I was supposed to go with certain parts, and it was quite confusing to figure out which gym was which. I'm sure I took on some of the gym leaders out of order, not in the proper order that they were supposed to be in. But yeah, anyways, still had a blast with this game for sure. But one of my biggest, I guess, issues was the layout, or the, I guess, sequence of everything just seemed like it was a little bit wonky playing through it this time. The other thing I must have forgot about when I was playing it growing up was the fact that your battles against your rival is the exact same team as Blue does in regular Fire Red and Leaf Green, up until a certain point, which is basically this rival battle against Blue. Well, your rival, which is, I guess, Blue's son. And yeah, after this, then he starts getting some different team members and has a completely different team that's not the same. But I just thought it was kind of interesting playing through it this time, I just realized that this time, 10 years later, that, he had the exact same team as Blue does, leading up, the exact same Pokemon, the exact same levels and everything to a certain point in the game. And then later on, he finally has a different team and his levels are insanely high. So that was just an interesting thing with your rival in this game. And the one thing I did appreciate about this game is the story, actually. The story isn't too bad at all. At the start of the game, you get a little bit of dialogue that basically tells you you're 20. This is 20 years after Red and Blue had become the champions of the region, and then you play as Red's son, and then your rival is Blue's son. So it's kind of cool how there's a little bit of family dynamic with familiar characters from the other Pokemon games, the real Pokemon games. So that was kind of cool with this game. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's the same old with Pokemon. You get your Pokédex and you're on your way trying to take down gym leaders and become the champion. So that, of course, isn't any different from any other Pokemon game, but it's kind of cool to have that family dynamic with you being Red's son in this game. Now here is an example of the ridiculous level jumps. This is when I first tried to take on the grass type gym, and I was extremely outmatched. I wasn't even close to her level, so I was this is when the level jumps really started. Up until this point, I didn't think the level scaling was that bad, but man, this game is difficult just because of the level jumps. The level jumps are kind of erratic and make zero sense. And this was the first gym where I remembered that, because I remember this game being a little bit more of a difficult ROM hack growing up. And then this kind of just jogged my memory, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why, because the level jumps are so erratic and ridiculous. So this was the kind of first time that I realized that, and I was like, yeah, I remember these level jumps being a little bit ridiculous, but this is insane. Like level 40 against my team, they're all in their mid-20s, like early 30s kind of a thing. So anyways, I just wanted to show this off because I got decimated by this grass-type gym and left it alone for quite a while. I did not rematch her for a little while till my team was leveled up closer to her Sceptile's level. But this isn't the only time that I ran into ridiculous level jumps, because the Elite Four is also an insane level jump, or the end of the game, I guess. The last gym leader was fairly high leveled, and then the Elite Four was just insane, like completely different levels, and you just had these crazy level jumps. So then, yeah, this was the gym leader that was in the town next to the grass gym leader that I then realized was the one I was supposed to take on, which was more down at my level. So very, very funny, I guess, that I ended up taking on this grass-type gym leader, because I thought that would be the one I'd have to take on first. But no, they were insanely high-leveled, and this was what I was talking about with kind of no direction really guiding you at all. There's just a gym. There's a gym before this gym that you'd think you would take on, but no, that's that other gym, that grass-type gym, was insane compared to this one. So this was the one I ended up taking on and being able to take down. But yeah, anyways, enough with talking about the level jumps. They were a little bit insane in this ROM hack, and I'll have to replay Pokemon Brown, because I think Pokemon Brown was the exact same as Rijon Adventures, but this was just the Game Boy Advance version that the hacker had created, and I'll have to replay Brown one of these days and then see what I think of Pokemon Brown, since it's been a very, very long time since I've also played that game. So that'd be kind of cool to revisit that and make a video on Pokemon Brown, since it's been a very, very long time since I played that game as well. So I was just curious because I thought from my memory that Pokemon Brown was the exact same as Rijon Adventures, but just Rijon Adventures is basically a remade version on the Game Boy Advance. But no, it turns out that Rijon Adventures is supposed to be a sequel to Pokemon Brown. So I guess in Pokemon Brown you do play as Red, taking on the Rijon region, and then in Pokemon Rijon Adventures you're his son. So I guess that would make sense. So yeah, I'll definitely have to replay Pokemon Brown at some point and see what I think of Pokemon Brown. But this now in the background is just when I finally was leveled up enough to take on that grass type gym, since I got completely decimated by her the first time I tried taking her on. So with level 36 Pokemon, I was able to make it a little bit easier on myself this time. I did really like that in this game. One of the coolest things I thought about this ROM hack was the utilization of the Safari Zone basically being actually, more than just going in to capture Pokemon. And then of course in Fire Red and Leaf Green, it was a way to get your HM for Surf, I believe, if I remember correctly, because you got the golden teeth and then you had to bring it to, or maybe it was Strength. I think it was actually Strength, because then you had to get the golden teeth and then bring it to that old guy, and then you got the HM for Strength, I believe. And so in this game, they ended up making it also worth your time, because Moltres was in the Safari area, which was not called the Safari Zone. It was called something else in this ROM hack, but it was pretty cool that they integrated it that way with a legendary that you could hunt down. And then there was also some other reasons that you had to go in there too, like you needed to find some Go Goggles, and then you could go to the Sandy area, and there was a whole string of different events you had to do to get a few different HMs to be able to continue on and eventually finish off the game. But yeah, just something that I thought was pretty cool with this ROM hack, and I thought was a really, really good move by the hacker to basically integrate the Safari Zone a little bit better than the actual Pokemon games do, because other than Fire Red and Leaf Green, they're really a lot of the other Pokemon games with Safari Zones, they don't really do much other than just allow you to catch some different Pokemon. Now in this ROM hack, like lots of other ROM hacks do, you have a lot more than just your regular Pokemon from the base game that they're based off of. And in this game you had lots of Johto and Hoenn Pokemon to capture, which was awesome. And including Lugia was one of the main legendaries to capture. So I ended up capturing Moltres, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. And then I ended up also capturing Lugia, and actually deciding to use Lugia because I haven't really used Lugia or used any legendaries on my teams in any Pokemon game in a very, very long time. And Lugia is one of my favorite legendaries of all time. So I decided, you know what, since this is a hack, and since I was able to capture Lugia fairly early into the game, which I'm showing in the background right now, then I might as well use them. So I ended up using Lugia as part of my team. Okay, so I just had to let that legendary music play out, because that's the legendary music for Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza. So that's one of my favorite legendary themes of all time. So I just had to let that play out. Definitely like that the hacker ended up having Lugia down in a low spot of a cave as he should be, and then also using the Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza theme for his legendary theme. I just thought that was awesome, and lowered his level from level 50 or down to level 50, which normally in Fire Red and Leaf Green, if you actually take on Lugia at Naval Rock, then Lugia is normally level 70. So that was awesome to have a level 50 Lugia to use a part of my team, so I didn't feel like I was using too overpowered of a legendary, especially with the level scaling in this game. Having a level 50 Lugia was, at this point in the game, the rest of my team was all level 46, and I was still pretty under-leveled at this point. So to have a level 50 a part of my team wasn't a big stretch at all. Now, I've just wanted to show this. This was pretty cool. You weren't able to explore all of Goldenrod because there was this blank wall right here, this invisible wall. And then you'd run into this guy that says, I'm the producer of Rijon Adventures. The rest of Goldenrod City isn't available to play, but you can play up till the Elite Four. And yeah, so it was pretty cool to see Goldenrod City. It was recreated very, very well, I thought. It's just kind of sucks that this game wasn't ever finished, as it was left in beta form, so it wasn't quite finished, but at least the Rijon region was finished. So then you also had the Ilex Forest you could explore as well. And then you could actually take on Bugsy, which I did. So it was an unofficial gym match, but at least you could take on Bugsy, so that was kind of cool. But I thought it was interesting that the sprite for Bugsy was a cool trainer, because I don't think Bugsy is a very cool trainer at all. But that was just, the fight itself was really, really good. Bugsy had a very, very high-level team. My whole team was around low-level 50s at this point, as you can see, and Bugsy's team was basically all around level 60. So this was another massive level jump, and then the last gym leader as well was a huge level increase. I believe the last gym leader was like mid-level 60s, and then by the time he took on the Elite Four, they were all like mid-70s to 80s. So yeah, the level scaling was insane, because after this little stint in Johto, then there wasn't much left of the game before the Elite Four, and then the level scaling was just insane at the end of the game. Throughout this entire game, I had quite the extensive team list by the end of the game. I mean, I had started out, of course, kept my starter, my Squirtle, throughout the entire game. So I kept Bruce, my Blastoise, by the end of the game. But I swapped through a whole bunch of different team members. I had a Scyther, I'd used Gloom for a little bit, I'd used Pidgeot for a little bit, and then in came Magmar, so I'd used Magby and then Magmar for a little while, and then I decided to swap out Magmar for Typhlosion, and then I swapped out my Gloom for Meganium, and I also had a Kadabra, but then I realized, or I had to do some Googling, and found out that the hacker did not make a way to evolve the trade evolution Pokemon without trades. So basically that Kadabra is going to be stuck as a Kadabra if I wanted to keep it on my team, which isn't terrible. That's the one thing I used to always do when I was growing up and only had one Game Boy. Then I just played through Ruby Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red, Leaf Green, and I would use some of those Pokemon as their second evolution because I wasn't able to trade, or if I didn't have a buddy to trade with, then I would just use them. Like, I remember multiple times playing through Fire Red or Leaf Green and using Haunter and Kadabra throughout the playthrough, just because I didn't have a way to trade for them. So then I would just use them throughout the entire game, and the stats on both of those Pokemon are really, really good themselves without needing their final trait evolution. But as you can see here, this last gym, like, the levels were insane, like mid-60s kind of a thing. And then this was right after you're done your little adventure in Johto. So then my whole team wasn't that much higher of a level than they were when I was in Johto. And then here I am taking on Pokemon that are in their mid-60s. So it was definitely the level jumps were one of the big things that were, like, that was one thing I didn't like as well in Pokemon Dark Rising. I remember playing through the first Dark Rising, and I haven't played the second or any of those other ones. I know that the hacker that has created those games, I know they've made like 3 or 4 by now, but I played through the first one, and I just remember the level jumps being so insane that I didn't find it that enjoyable, because some of these hacks, if they have too high level jumps, it's not even really like they're difficult. It's just gets to a certain point where it's just a little bit annoying to be grinding all the time. There's a certain difference between streamlined difficulty in Pokemon games and then just outrageous level jumps. And some of these ROM hacks just have outrageous level jumps. And honestly, I had such fond memories of this game, and not gonna lie, I still really enjoyed it. Rijon Adventures is still a great ROM hack, but like I said at the start of the video, it wasn't, playing through it now, it's not as good as I remembered, and I think my biggest issue was the fact that I had to take so much time to just try and grind up my team between gym leaders or at certain parts of the game that it just ruined the how streamlined it was and everything. So it kind of made it not feel as smooth of an adventure or smooth of a game as it could have been if the levels weren't so insane at certain parts. The other thing I noticed with this game as well is it felt like there was less area to actually level up. Like a lot of the gyms were pretty fast and there wasn't really a whole lot of routes or areas to take on trainers and level up your team before some of the gyms, which definitely made it I think more difficult to feel like you were in line where you should have been level wise to take on each following gym. But yeah, and then the other thing too is that there was no victory road in this game. So it was pretty much after the 8th gym, you're just able to go take on your rival once more, and then you're at the Pokemon League. So that was, I think, another thing that was taken out that probably could have helped with some of the leveling up. And because there was, the first time I took on the Elite Four, my whole team was around level 55, which they were when I took on the 8th gym, and then because there was nowhere to really level up between the 8th gym and the Pokemon League. And then I learned the hard way, the once I took on the 4th gym member the first time, my whole team being around level 55, I got absolutely swept and just destroyed. So then I decided to grind up my team to level 60 or around level 60, and then I was able to finish the game with my level 60 squad against all these, Pokemon that were in their mid to late 70s or early 80s by the time you take on the champions. So basically my level 60 squad was extremely underleveled for the Elite Four, but I was still able to finish off the Elite Four at the end of the game. Now, even though I probably sounded like I was more critical of this game than anything, or this ROM hack than anything, I did really enjoy it. I don't want you guys to think I didn't enjoy it at all. This was just nostalgia for me. It's not the best ROM hack by any means, but I played it years ago, right? So I played it around 2010 was when I probably played it. So it was back when Chaos Black, Quartz, this game, that was kind of the main ROM hacks. There really wasn't a whole lot. ROM hacking was just kind of getting going. I remember Fire Red Omega coming out, and I love that game, like a harder difficulty, more Pokemon to capture version of Fire Red, like I'm in. So the hacker Drayano does a phenomenal job with all their games that they increase the difficulty on. That's kind of their thing, is just increasing difficulty on Pokemon games. So they're the ones that are known for Blaze Black and Volt White, Blaze Black, Volt White 2, Renegade Platinum that I just finished and put a video up on my channel. That game as well is done by Drayano. So I just love those increased difficulty Pokemon ROM hacks from Drayano. They're always amazing. They're just very, very good, simple ROM hacks that add enough to increase the difficulty, add enough extra areas to explore, unlock all the events that you might not have been able to do yourself if you're playing through a legitimate copy and the regular version. So just really, really tasteful ROM hacks. And then this game is still very, very good and was very, very nostalgic for me to play again. But if I'm looking at it from critically now, it's probably was the best back when I played it, the best ROM hack by far. But playing it now that I played lots of other ROM hacks since, it's definitely not the best for sure. But it was still super nostalgic to go back and play it, and I had a blast playing Rijon Adventures. And it did not take me very long, even though by the end of the game, I played it mostly on super speed. Even though by the end of the game it was showing that my playtime was like 50-something hours or whatever, it wasn't. It was probably more like the range of 8 to 10 hours when you have super speed going the whole time. But now that I'll let the final battle finish off the video. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next one.